Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to walk you through my Arcane Mage guide for MoP Classic. At first I wasn't sure about making a guide for Classic WoW because people figured out how to play the game 12 years ago. However, Blizzard has made some changes to the game and those old guides from 12 years ago are now outdated. And the new ones that came out a few weeks ago are either too basic or completely wrong. So I decided to make a proper guide. So let's dive in. First, I'm going to talk about the boring things, the stat priority, talents, and trinkets. Then I'm going to talk about the gameplay. So in MoP Classic, 425 haste gives you 1% haste, and 300 mastery gives you 1% mastery, 600 crit gives you 1% crit. And in practice, you only benefit from 85 to 90% of your mastery because your mana is not always full. So roughly 300 mastery gives you 1% base damage increase. And to optimize your DPS is basically doing this problem, optimize this function, given a fixed number of secondary stats. And if you know how to do the math, you should do the math. Otherwise, here's a one-sentence conclusion. You just need to reforge mastery over haste over crit. But make sure that the difference between mastery and haste is not too high. And the simplest way to do it is just to use frost armor and reforge this. Now if you do this, you will usually end up somewhere near the sweet point. You can forget about the haste breakpoint because in phase 1 you will always reach the first haste breakpoint and you'll never be able to reach the second one. So in phase 1 you can just forget about the breakpoint. And if you want to use mage armor, that's fine, but you will no longer do this reforging strategy. You will need more haste if you use mage armor. And that's usually a headache. So I would suggest that you just use frost armor and use this simple reforge strategy. And now next, the talents and glyphs. So for the talents, this is usually the standard ones. And for the second tier, the temporal shield is not bad. But I would say that usually what saves your life is ice barrier, not the temporal shield, because if you drop below 5% health, this temporal shield won't save you. And for the level 60 talents, cauterize is the default one, but unless you need to soak something like every 90 seconds, or you need to soak something that has a very, very high damage, because cauterize will not proc if the damage is more than twice your health. Okay, so. And at level 75, usually you go Living Bomb, but if there are more than 3 targets, you go Nether Tempest. Now the level 90 ones are the most crucial ones. Usually you go between Rune of Power and Incanter's Ward. And if you go Incanter's Ward, you never want to press this button. So you just want to have the passive effect, because you cannot afford to lose the 65% mana regeneration. And the 18% maximum mana every 25 seconds will not compensate this. However, in multi-target fights, you can afford to use this ability, because in multi-target fights, you will be casting a lot of bombs, which is mana efficient. Okay. And then if you go Rune of Power, which is the most ideal case, you want to place it at good positions so that you don't have to place it over and over again. Okay, so what I mean by this, let me show you an example, a very simple example. Okay. So in this fight, I want to hop between this sector over here and this sector over here. So I place my Rune of Power in between the sectors. Okay. So intuitively, people tend to place the Rune of Power right beneath the character. And that's understandable, but that's a very bad habit. You should try not to do that. And you should place your Rune of Power to minimize the number of times you cast this ability. Okay. So this is a very simple example. In other fights, there might be more complicated ones. So, and that's it for talents. And now glyphs. So for glyphs, usually this is your default ones. And in fights that has very long fight time, where you need more than 3 mana gems, you will need the mana gem glyph. Okay, so otherwise this is your default. Okay, and in some fight you may want to use blink to break some stuns or roots, then you cannot have this. Okay, so and notice that the minor glyph, this minor glyph is crucial here, and I'll talk about this in the burn phase. So right now let's just remember this. Okay, and that's it for the talents and glyphs. Now for trinkets. Now before you get the Essence of Terror trinket, which is from the Terrace of Endless Spring, in single target fights, your base trinket will be Darkmoon card plus a 463 unused trinket. And I would say that Elegant trinket is absolutely trash for single target. Now why? Because it only procs from your Living Bomb or Nether Tempest. And you will understand this when I talk about the burn phase. Okay, so this trinkets almost never line up with everything else. Okay, so however, in multi-target fights, well, technically, if you just want to gamble for perfect procs, that's fine. You can use this trinket, but in most cases, your DPS will suck. Okay. So, but if you just want to gamble, that's fine. You can use this trinket. Now in multi-target fights, you can use the Elegant trinket because you will be casting a lot of Living Bombs on a lot of targets. And the chance that this trinket procs will be significantly increased. Now let's talk about the burn phase. Now let me tell you what a perfect opening looks like, and then I will tell you how to deal with bad luck. Okay, so the ideal case is you fish for procs, Arcane Missiles, and when you have 4 Arcane charges, 2 Arcane Missiles and trinket procs, pop every CD and you use Outer Time. Okay, so let me show you a video first. Okay, so now on pull, you fish for procs using Arcane Blast. And now I have everything. I have 4 Arcane charges, I have Trinket procs, I have 2 Arcane Missiles. And then I pop everything and use Outer Time. Okay. And I use all my procs, I cast Arcane Barrage, and I go again. Okay. So ideally ideally the rotation is, with Time Warp, you cast Arcane Missiles, so this is after you use Outer Time. Arcane Missiles, Arcane Blast, Arcane Missiles, Arcane Blast, and Arcane Barrage, Arcane Missiles. Now, your Outer Time ends during this Arcane Missiles class. So that's why you need to cast this Arcane Missiles after the Barrage. You may say that, okay, when you cast the Barrage, you're at 0 stacks of Arcane charges, but during the cast, your Outer Time ends and you will go back to 4 charges. And your Arcane Missiles will benefit from the 4 charges of Arcane charges. Okay, so ideally this is the rotation. It's not difficult. Okay. Now, but the crucial thing is, a good Arcane Mage should be able to pull high damage in almost every single fight, regardless of your luck. So sometimes your procs are bad, sometimes you have very few Arcane Missiles procs, sometimes your crits are low, sometimes your crits are concentrated at low Arcane charges. But to really have a bad DPS, everything must go wrong. And that's very rare. Okay, so let me show you how to deal with bad luck. Because if you have good luck, this is very easy. Okay, so just as what I showed you. Okay, so you just, now let's look at this again. You fish for Arcane, you fish for every procs. You have every proc, you cast Outer Time. You do the rotation, and that's it. You can pull insane damage. But the problem is you won't have it every fight. Okay. Now here I'm going to talk about the most crucial thing, how to deal with bad luck. Okay. Now the strategy here is quite complicated, but I'll show you some video examples. Okay. So let's go through the strategy first. So your rotation for fishing the proc will be the following. Okay. So before the pull, you cast Mirror Image, Pre-Pot, Arcane Blast, Time Warp, Living Bomb. And now after this Living Bomb, you need to make your first decision. Now if you have 2 Arcane Missiles and no Trinket proc, then use 1 Arcane Missiles. If you have 2 Arcane Missiles and Trinket procs, then keep using Arcane Blast. If you have less than 2 Arcane Missiles, then keep doing Arcane Blast. Regardless of your proc, use Arcane Power and the Trinket as 4 Arcane Charges. Now if you do not have Trinket proc as 4 Arcane Charges, use Arcane Barrage and build charges again. When you have all procs, 4 Arcane Charges and 2 missiles, use Berserking, Mana Gem, and Alter Time. Okay, so this means that you need 2 separate macros. Okay, so let me show you the macros. Now you need 1 macro, you need this one, you use this at 4 Arcane Charges. Okay, and you use the other one when you have everything. Okay, so because if you don't have Arcane Missiles, if you don't have Trinket procs, you need to go again. Okay, but you pop this at 4 Arcane Charges regardless of your proc. Now, and the other situation is if your Trinket procs immediately on pull and you don't have Arcane Missiles proc, then you cannot use Arcane Barrage and build charges again because you have to have the Trinket during Alter Time. Okay, so in this case, you just Arcane Blast until you have 75 mana, and if you still don't have Arcane Missiles, you just have to accept it. You just have to use Berserking and Alter Time. Okay, and that's the strategy. I'm pretty sure that you're confused by now. Okay, but let me show you an example here. Okay, so for this one, now. On this pull, I didn't have perfect proc. Now I use Arcane Blast. I am at 3 charges, and I did not have Trinket proc. Okay, so I did not have Trinket proc, so I use everything. I use Arcane Power, use my Trinket, and then use Arcane Barrage. I build the charges again, but I did not use Berserking and Alter Time. Okay, I clear charges. And now after I clear the charges, I have 2 Arcane. Okay, 1 second. Now after I clear the charges, I have 2 Arcane Missiles. No, that's the way. Oh, here. Okay, so I have 2 Arcane Missiles after I clear the stacks. So I use 1 charges to fish for Trinket proc. Only 1, okay, and then use Arcane Blast again. Now this time I have the Trinket, so I go to 4 stacks, and I pop everything. Okay, I pop Berserking here and Alter Time, and I do the burn phase rotation. Okay, so let's look at this again. I did not have procs. I clear charges and build again. Okay. Okay, and that's if you do all of those during burn phase, you will minimize your chance of having extreme bad luck. And also let me show you that on this fight, I did insane damage, but look at my crit chance of Arcane Barrage. I have a 3.8% crit chance. That's extremely low. But I was still able to pull high damage because, as I said earlier, if you really, to really have a bad DPS, everything must go wrong. Okay, everything must go wrong. Maybe your crits are low, maybe your procs are bad, but if you know how to do everything, eventually you will be lucky on something. Okay, so, and that's it. That's for the burn phase. And now let's talk about the normal phase. So the normal phase, basically you just have two rules. Now, rule number one, at the end of Arcane Blast or Arcane Missiles cast, or at the end of Living Bomb global cooldown, if you have 4 Arcane charges, you don't have Arcane Missiles proc, you don't have to refresh Living Bomb, and your mana is below 90%, then use Arcane Barrage. Okay, and why we need to do this? Let me show you why. Okay, so I'm going to spend my mana first. Then I'm going to drop below 90%. Now, let's wait my mana goes to 90% and I'm going to cast Arcane Barrage and deal charges. Okay, 90% Arcane Barrage, Arcane Missiles. Now look at my mana. My mana is just below 100%. Okay, let's do this again. Okay, now wait until I have 90% mana. Now Arcane Barrage, Arcane Blast. My mana is just below 100%. And if I cast when I cast Arcane, if my mana is over 90% when I cast Arcane Barrage, I will reach 100% mana earlier, which means I waste my mana regeneration. And that's exactly why I do this. I do this so that I don't waste my mana regeneration. Okay, that's rule number one. Now rule number two, do not use Arcane Missiles at 0 Arcane charge, even if you have 2 Arcane Missiles proc. Now, in this situation, you either cast Living Bomb or Arcane Blast. Now, your Living Bomb or Arcane Blast may waste 1 proc of Arcane Missiles because you're already at 2 Arcane Missiles proc. You can only have 2 Arcane Missiles proc at one time. Okay, so, but that's fine. Even if you waste 1 proc, that's fine. And the idea is you want to build Arcane charges with Arcane Blast, then cast Arcane Missiles at high charges. Okay. And notice that this is for normal phase. An exception can be made when you want to fish for trinket procs. You know, just like the video what I just showed you. Okay. At the beginning, I didn't have trinket proc, so I used 1 stack of Arcane Missiles to fish for the trinket proc. That's totally fine. But in normal phase, you never want to cast Arcane Missiles at 0 stack. Okay, and that's for the normal phase. And lastly, I want to talk about other tricks. So the first one is the use of Frost Fireball. And sometimes, let me show you the same video. Sometimes you want to cast Frost Fireball. Sometimes you're at 4 charges of you have 4 Arcane charges, and you want to pop your cooldowns. However, they are not ready. Now in this case, my altar time is not ready, but everything else is ready. So what I do, I can clear my charges, but then I will have to build it again. That's not worth it. So in this case, I use Frost Fireball. Look at this. I use Frost Fireball and wait for my cooldowns. Okay. So notice that here, I don't have my trinket. My trinket is 20 seconds away. But if I wait for my trinket, the boss is gonna die. So here I absolutely want to pop my CVs. And I have everything ready. I have 2 charges of Arcane Missiles and add 4 Arcane charges. But my altar time is a few seconds away from ready. So I cast Frost Fireball. Okay. And then now it's ready. I pop everything. Okay, so sometimes you can use this, you can use Frost Firebolt to preserve your arcane charges. Now the second one is you can use a counter spell to proc the Shah trinket. Okay, now that's the essence of terror. Okay, so this one can be triggered by a counter spell. So and notice that this has a relatively low proc chance. However, this is much better than the elegant one because this can be triggered by arcane blast and arcane missiles, but the elegant one can only be triggered by living bomb. Okay, and the essence terror can be triggered by counter spell. So you should always try to use counter spell on pool. Okay, and also on Shower of Fear, in phase 1, there's there's an NPC that gives you a 15% haste buff. Okay, now if you have the 15% haste buff, your haste will be too high. So in that case, you want to use Mage armor. Okay, so that's the other tricks I want to tell you. And that's it. That's all I want to talk about. And thanks for watching. If you have questions, you can leave a comments below. Thank you.